The main significance of this event is that Pakistan has an opportunity right now of a potential 4 billion investment. In the current scheme of things, that investment is not happening. Otherwise, if the policy or the investment environment was conducive enough, it would have happened on its own. So there is a requirement for these mega investments to come with a long-term policy which actually gives the investors confidence that it will not change over that period. And in that period, and certain incentives are also given. What sort of scares a little bit the investors is that if it's not covered through a policy, then ad hocism can creep in. Governments do change. Pakistan, alhamdulillah, has a very unique distinction. Anything which has come through a policy, we have never gone back on it. So anybody who looks at Pakistan, the positivity around it is that if it's a government policy and it's sort of any incentives given in that policy, governments have changed. You had political governments, you had military governments. Those policies were then followed through. So whatever is promised in that policy, if it's part of the policy, that will continue, inshallah. And the track record is pretty good. Almost 50% of this is with Engro alone. So I mean, you can speak to other players. They are here in two projects. One is the polypropylene project. That could be in the range of 1.5 to 1.8. I mean, the price would eventually come out, and almost 200 to 300 million dollars in expansion of our PVC to a world scale size. So I think there is some work which has started. As far as I know, I mean, as you must have heard from some of the people who were the government speakers who were there in Symposium, that presentations have been done. And I believe Engineering Development Board was given this sort of mandate to craft the policy. And then obviously they will have a advisory body which will review at the government level. And one very heartening comment by the SPM, Mr. Khalid Mansoor, was that now there is a lot of input taken when the policy development from the private sector players also. So if that collaboration happens, inshallah, that should happen. So that's a very interesting thing. It's a very large investment, first of all. I mean, so NAPHTHA cracker, you need to have intermediates. You have downstream industry which makes products which consumers use. You have midstream, which is where intermediates are made, and they are sold to these downstream, players. Somebody making a bottle, you need that resin that's made by the intermediate state. And the feedstock which this intermediate industry needs is ideally from a cracker. So what we are saying is that let the midstream grow to a size that there is enough demand for the feedstock which is going to come out of the cracker. Pharmaceuticals might be an intermediate for some of the things which come out of those crackers. They need to have the size. A world scale size is important, to be economically, really viable. You can't put a small cracker in. Generally now people are talking about 1 million to 2 million to 3 million ton crackers, because otherwise you can't compete with the world. The cracker has to be economically viable also. Now, earlier, like in 60s, you had crackers of 200,000 tons, 300,000 tons. If you put up a non-world scale cracker now in Pakistan, it will not be able to compete. Even intermediate industry can, source from, let's say, Middle East, their cracker downstream feedstock, and this Pakistani cracker would not be able to compete. So we need to grow the size of the intermediate industry first, and then a world scale cracker must come. A smaller cracker would not really make it viable and competitive. We and Bangladesh are the only, and Denmark I saw in this one, and Denmark probably because of the environmental things they might not do it, and it's a small country, are the only 3 countries in the world who do not have a cracker. So yes, cracker is a requirement, but cracker today, it will be a too small a cracker to justify being globally competitive.